Imagine a group, maybe widely stereotyped, often misunderstood, yet quietly responsible for restoring entire species. We're talking from the brink of extinction
Right.
and injecting billions into the very ecosystems they're sometimes accused of harming.
It's a paradox for many people.
Exactly. So today, we're challenging that conventional wisdom. We're pulling back the curtain on the, well, surprising role of hunters as potentially leading conservationists.
Hmm.
Our mission in this deep dive, to give you a thorough but concise understanding of the unexpected, often overlooked ways they contribute,
Yeah.
to wildlife conservation and ecological balance.
Trying to get to those aha moments.
Yes. We're diving into an article. It's titled 13 Reasons Hunters Are the Leading Wildlife Conservationists. And it lays out a pretty robust case for this often debated role.
It certainly does. It makes some strong claims.
It argues, quite controversially actually, that without hunters, many U.S. species just wouldn't exist today.
That's a big statement.
It is. And here's a startling fact right out of the gate from the source material. Deer collisions alone cost an estimated, get this, $7.5 billion annually.
Wow. Billion with a B.
And lead to 200 motorist fatalities each year. That's a powerful and unexpected connection, isn't it?
It truly sets a compelling stage for rethinking a familiar topic.
Right.
The source immediately argues that hunters are far more than just hobbyists.
Right.
They're presented as leading conservationists, deeply involved in, comprehensive wildlife management, maintaining healthy ecosystems.
Okay.
And surprisingly to many, even significantly boosting the economy. It paints a much broader, more active picture than most might initially consider.
I see. So the economic impact, especially when you factor in things like those staggering deer collision, costs that $7.5 billion, 200 lives lost each year. That data comes from the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, cited in the source. It positions hunting as more than just, a leisure activity. It suggests a substantial ripple effect. So to really grasp the scale, what are the concrete financial contributions? Where does the money actually come from that forms the backbone of this conservation work?
Well, what's truly fascinating here is how these self-imposed financial contributions form the bedrock of so much conservation work. Yeah. And it benefits all wildlife, not just game species.
Self-imposed.
Yeah, that's the key.
Yeah.
We're talking about billions of dollars that are fundamental for state wildlife agencies. Take excise tax dollars, for example. This is a unique mechanism. Hunters themselves actually came up with the idea.
Really? They proposed taxing themselves.
That's what the source claims, yeah. Taxes collected from buying firearms, ammunition, certain hunting gear. It goes directly to state wildlife agencies and conservation efforts. It's brought in literally billions over time.
Billions. That's a truly significant figure for a self-imposed tax. Does the source highlight other major financial streams, or is this the primary one feeding state wildlife agencies?
It's a cornerstone, definitely, but not the only one. The money from just buying hunting licenses, tags, stamps, that supports the majority of each state wildlife agency's budget.
Majority?
Yeah. The source makes it clear that without these funds, these agencies, quote, wouldn't accomplish a small fraction of what they do. So it's not just federal taxes, it's also that direct state-level funding from licenses.
Okay, so these funds aren't just sitting in an account somewhere. They're tied to tangible, on-the-ground results.
Exactly.
The article points out that hunter-funded dollars were absolutely crucial back in the 1900s for restocking efforts, species like elk, whitetail, wild turkey, which are now thriving.
A huge turnaround story for those species.
And it extends to habitat too, right?
Yeah.
Hunter-sourced dollars fund work on both federal and state lands, supporting the majority of state wildlife agency budgets for, quote, habitat improvement efforts. It really highlights a direct link, their dollars' direct impact. So, okay, beyond the money, how do hunters directly, get their hands dirty in conservation? What's their on-the-ground involvement look like?
That's where the story gets maybe even more compelling and historical. The source details how, back in the early 1900s, species like whitetails, wild turkeys, pronghorn, ducks, they were incredibly scarce.
Right, almost gone in some places.
Truly on the brink. But concerned hunters, as the source puts it, convened and intervened. They organized, they advocated, and as a direct result, we see the thriving populations today. I mean, think about that. Active intervention from that group, leading to the dramatic revival of entire species.
That's quite a narrative shift.
It is. And another critical aspect is their role in reducing poaching. The source argues, quote, more law-abiding hunters equals fewer law-breaking poachers.
How does that work?
Well, part of it is funding. A significant chunk of state agency funding. From those hunter dollars, fields game wardens, conservation officers. More officers means less illegal activity.
Okay, boots on the ground.
Right. But it's also the hunters themselves. The source suggests most are diligent about policing their own hunting lands, acting as extra eyes and ears against poaching.
That's an interesting dynamic, the idea of them as a kind of self-policing force. Does the source get into how this contributes to, like, broader knowledge? Is there a research component?
Absolutely. The money collected from hunters, through those taxes and licenses we talked about, it also funds critical studies. Research on disease, population dynamics, policy.
Hmm.
This research is absolutely essential for effective wildlife management. It provides the data for informed decisions, not just, guesswork.
So it's funding the science, too.
That's a key part of it.
Okay, it's easy to think about conservation in these, like, grand, sweeping initiatives. But the source seems to emphasize the smaller scale, too. What happens on the ground, property by property?
Yeah, that's a key point the source stresses. Hunters, operating within regulations, of course, often make difficult, localized herd management decisions, right at the property level.
Local.
Yeah. And these decisions, the source emphasizes, are almost always made, quote, in a manner that's best for the wildlife. Think about property owners, managers. They're prioritizing wildlife, making choices that help local populations flourish, especially deer herds. They have very hands-on management.
Right, managing their specific area.
Exactly. And for some, it goes even further. Some hunters actually buy rural land with the, quote, sole or primary purpose of preserving wildlife habitat.
Just for the habitat.
That's the claim. And they don't just buy it, they actively improve it, adding food plots, water sources, cover, stuff like that, improving the quality of the habitat.
Okay, that's interesting. It's easy to think about individual species, but the source points to a bigger systemic role, too. How does hunting fit into the delicate balance, predator and prey, the whole ecosystem?
This is where it gets really insightful, I think. Hunters apparently play a critical role in striking a proper balance, managing both burgeoning predator and prey populations.
Both sides.
Both sides. While the white-tailed deer is cited as the most abundant big game animal, hunters help manage predator populations too, within regulations. Think about unchecked populations. Deer, for example, can completely decimate forest undergrowth.
Right, impacting everything else.
Exactly. No food for smaller animals, changing tree growth. The insight here is that regulated hunting isn't just population control, it's presented as a proactive ecological tool. It prevents those big pendulum swings the source mentions, keeping things more balanced.
For the health of all the species, not just the hunted ones.
That's the argument. And the source is quite emphatic on this next point. It states, quote, regulated hunting has never caused a wildlife population to become threatened or endangered.
Never. That's a strong claim.
Very strong. It describes wildlife as a renewable resource with a surplus, and hunting as an integral part of a healthy system that thrives, delivering healthy ecosystems. It definitely challenges common assumptions.
It really does. That's a very strong assertion from the source. So how do these individual efforts, these localized decisions, how do they scale up to impact the whole system beyond just private land?
Well, it's through collective action, too. The source highlights donations to nonprofit conservation organizations. Think Ducks Unlimited, National Wild Turkey Federation, groups like that.
Okay, the big conservation groups.
Right. Most hunters, the source says, are members. They pay dues, attend fundraisers, make direct donations, and these dollars are often specifically used to conserve the particular wildlife species associated with that organization. So it amplifies their individual impact into larger organized efforts.
Gotcha. So summing this up, what does this all mean for how we understand conservation? We've taken this deep dive into the source's 13 reasons why hunters are described as leading conservationists. We've covered the significant financial contributions, their direct role in species revival, habitat work, localized management, balancing predator-prey dynamics. What stands out to you after laying all this out, especially the counterintuitive parts?
Well, if we connect all these dots, it presents a really compelling case. A case for a group whose actions, maybe often behind the scenes, perhaps contrary to popular perception, are argued by this source to be essential. Essential for many of the thriving wildlife populations we see today.
Yeah.
It truly challenges the conventional wisdom about who's really at the forefront of conservation efforts. It reveals a complex, very active role.
The source concludes by stating, flat out, without hunters, many wildlife species wouldn't exist today. It's a bold claim, and it certainly gives us something pretty profound to think about, doesn't it?